Tomorrow is Veterans Day, observed every year on November 11th in the United States in honor of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, a date that marked the end of World War I. Originally known as Armistice Day, in 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower officially changed the name of the holiday to Veterans Day. This day pays tribute to all American veterans, living and deceased, but especially gives thanks to those living veterans who have served their country honorably in times of war and peace. In recognition of this important day, we are honored to welcome a speaker whose life exemplifies the very values Veterans Day celebrates. It gives me great pleasure this morning to introduce our speaker, Brian Kinsella. Brian is an investor, CEO, and former U.S. Army officer whose career has centered on service, leadership, and impact. He is the founder and executive chairman of Rapport, a technology-enabled behavioral health company, and the co-founder and volunteer executive chairman of Stop Soldier Suicide, the nation's leading nonprofit dedicated to preventing suicide among service members and veterans. A Bronze Star recipient, Brian commanded missions in Iraq and Haiti, and later played a key role in the 2021 Afghanistan evacuation effort. Before founding Rapport, he worked in global capital markets at BNP Paribas and Goldman Sachs, advising institutional investors and corporate leaders on energy and infrastructure strategy. A distinguished military graduate of Johns Hopkins University and proud Petty alum class of 2002, Brian credits Petty with instilling the values of discipline, curiosity, and service that have guided his life and career. He continues to champion innovation and purpose at the intersection of business, mental health, and national service. Please join me in welcoming Brian back to Petty.
And you know, it is pretty surreal and really special to be standing here again. This is actually my first time back at Petty since I graduated in 2002. Walking across campus last night felt like stepping back into a time capsule. The smell of fall air, the sound of gravel under my shoes, even the energy before chapel, especially after a decisive cup win. Congratulations. But the truth is that the 18-year-old Brian Kinsella who left this place would hardly recognize the person standing here today. And what changed me most, what shaped the direction of my entire life, actually started right here during my senior year on Petty's campus. It was September 11th, 2001. I was a prefect in Potter South. Classes had just started, and we were still settling into the rhythm of senior year, thinking about college applications, wrestling season, and life after graduation. That morning, we were sent back to our dorms after the first plane hit the North Tower. We gathered in the dorm lounge, turned on the TV, and we watched in real time as that second plane hit the South Tower. At 17 years old, I didn't yet have the words for what I was feeling. I just remember silence, shock, and that our nation was under attack. Later that day, the school came together right here in this chapel. There are actually some people who were probably here on that same day standing in this room. For the first time, we realized that history was not something in our textbooks. It was happening to us. One of my Petty classmates lost his father when the World Trade Center collapsed that day. And in that moment, something settled deep inside me, a question that would guide every decision I made after that day. And it was, when the world breaks, what will you do? What would I do? That question became my compass. After Petty, I went to Johns Hopkins, and joined the Army ROTC program. I wanted to serve. I wanted to do something that mattered. I graduated early so I could get to active duty as soon as possible. Over the next 5 years, I served in 5 countries, having the privilege of leading troops in combat in central Baghdad during the surge and during the drawdown, and later being one of the first Americans in Haiti after the earthquake in 2010, one of the worst natural disasters of modern time, with over 200,000 people killed in that tiny, poor country of Haiti. In Baghdad, I had led men and women from every background imaginable, kids from the Bronx, from Alabama, from small towns and cities across the country. They were the true face of America, an all-volunteer force bound not by politics or privilege, but by purpose. And in Haiti, surrounded by destruction, I saw the other side of service, and it was compassion. Soldiers and civilians working side by side, pulling survivors from rubble, sharing food and water, holding on to hope. Those experiences taught me lessons I still carry today about resilience, creativity under pressure, and how to asymmetrically solve problems with limited resources. But the hardest lesson came after I got back home. Because when the combat ended, another war began, and it was one we didn't talk about. I started losing friends, not to enemy fire, but to suicide. Many were soldiers who had survived the chaos of combat, men and women who made it through Baghdad, Fallujah, Kandahar, only to come home and face a quieter, crueler fight. And that's the battle within. They had survived the war abroad, but not the battlefield within their own minds and hearts. Since 9/11, more veterans have died by suicide than were killed in the entire global war on terror. Think about that for a moment. Most have been lost here at home than on every battlefield overseas combined. It's hard to describe the helplessness of that. Watching someone who once led others through enemy fire crumble under their own invisible weight. And that's when I realized that service doesn't end when you take off the uniform. It just changes form. So in 2010, immediately after the Haiti mission, I founded Stop Soldier Suicide with 2 fellow veterans. It was the first national nonprofit focused exclusively on ending suicide among service members and veterans. And I had started it while working full-time as a young analyst on Wall Street, working well over 100 hours per week because something had to be done. And everyone told me it was impossible. How could you work full-time at a Goldman Sachs and still volunteer building this nonprofit? But the one thing the Army teaches you is that when people are in danger, you don't walk past it. You do the right thing. And that mission, Stop Soldier Suicide, has now grown into something far bigger than I could have imagined. What began as a small group of volunteers has become a national movement helping thousands of veterans and service members each year. But more importantly, it forced me to confront something bigger than the military. And the truth is that mental health is not a military issue. It's a human issue. And resilience isn't about toughness. It's not about keeping it together or pretending you're fine. It's not. Resilience is about connection. It's about staying linked to purpose, to people, and to community. The opposite of suicide isn't strength, it's belonging. And that belief that we rise or fall together is something I first learned here at Petty. Petty was the first place where I learned what service really meant. See, I came here on scholarship, a working class kid from Howell, New Jersey, about 30 minutes east of here. I spent my summers working construction to pay for school. I was a New Jersey state champion and national place winner as captain of the wrestling team, but I was also a police explorer back in Howell, and I was a prefect here in Potter South. But beyond sports or grades, what I learned here was character. Character is what you do when no one's watching. It's what holds you up when life knocks you flat. Petty's motto is, "We finish our labors to begin them anew," which has stayed with me through every chapter of my life. Whether in Baghdad, Haiti, or building multiple companies now from scratch, the idea of finishing your labors only to start them again is what resilience truly is. The truth is, most of you won't join the military, and that's totally fine. But service takes on so many forms, and what matters most is that you find your way to serve. Because someday something will happen, maybe not as dramatic as 9/11, but something will shake your sense of what's certain. And when it does, you'll face a choice. Will you retreat into comfort, or will you step forward into purpose? For me, that moment came right here in this community, watching a world change on a television screen. And every step since, every country, every mission, every challenge has been my answer to that same question. So I'll leave you with this today. When the world breaks, what will you do? For me, that answer has always been, I will serve. Serve people, serve purpose, serve without reservations, limitations, or boundaries. That is how we build resilience. That is how we build meaning. And that is how together we make sure that no one, veteran, student, or stranger, ever fights alone. Thank you, Petty. It's good to be home.